Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Data Armory. We can never stress enough the importance of documentations, and we know very well that every other programming language out there have their official websites, and in the official websites, you can always get documentations. So today, in that because we are looking at Python, we want to look at the beginner's guide to Python, and which is the best place other than their website to try and get what is the beginner's guide and what guide do they give to beginners. So if you go to your favorite browser and type in Python, in the search results that it will bring up, there is this www.python.org, which is the official website of Python. And already here we see that we have a head start. There's a lot that we can gain if we interact with all these tabs that are here. For example, downloads. If you want to know where to download and how to download, there is documentations, a very important part of which we'll have some presentation on it and try to see what is in the documentation. There is the beginner's guide, which we are going to look into today. There is the community whereby you can find large Python communities. There are news and events, source code, and many more that you can find in this website. So if you get into the website, if you scroll down, you'll get this section, which acts like a little learning path to someone who is a beginner. It acts like a guide to someone who is a beginner. Like you need to get started. And here we are being told that whether you are new to programming or an experienced developer, it's easy to learn and use Python. After you have had a clue of what it involves to get started, you can go and download the Python interpreter, the IDEs, and the editors. And after doing that, you go to the documentations. And documentations for Python standard library along with tutorials and guides are available online. So you see, these are very important part. So you have gotten started, you have downloaded Python and IDEs and editors and interpreters. That is, when we say you have downloaded Python, we say that you have downloaded the interpreter. You go to the documentations to try and understand the language. And remember, documentation is not the only way, but is one of the most important ways of learning any language. Then after getting started downloading, going to the documentations, then there is the job section. So you see, this acts like a very small learning path. You get started, you download, you learn, you go and search for jobs or hunt for jobs. So in this website, the place that we are going to concentrate on is start with our beginner's guide. That is where we are going to start with the beginner's guide. And this offers us a very good head start into what we are going to get into as we continue to learn this Python programming language. So if you click here, it should lead you to this beginner's guide to Python. And this is what we are going to look at. New to programming, of course, we are talking to someone who is new to programming, who has no clue where to head to or where to start from. So new to programming. So we are being told that Python is free, easy to learn if you know where to start. And that's why we are starting here, because it's important to know where to start. And this guide is here to help us to get started quickly. So if you want to understand about Python, if you are new to Python, we have a video, look at the link up there, that explains what Python is, where it's used, its weaknesses, its strengths, and a little bit much more about Python. So you can check the link up there. So you are new to programming, Python is free and easy. We have said that. New to Python, read beginner's guide overview for short explanation of what Python is. So you can click here and get an explanation even without going to any other sources. Already there is an explanation here of what Python is. So already you have a head start. Already you have a quick way to get started. So getting Python. So already you can see the steps that it is giving us here. That's why we are looking at this, and we have said it's very important. We have the beginner's guide. You are new to Python. It explains to you what Python is and offers you a good head start. There is getting Python. Next, after having completed these steps, it's important to get Python. Next, you should install the Python 3 interpreter on your computer. And when you talk about Python 3 interpreter, This is the program that reads Python programs and carries out their instructions. You need it before you can do any Python programming. You see, these are very important bullet points. Then there is that. So after getting Python, you'll go and read the rest. There are also Python interpreter and IDE bundles are available, such as Thorny. Other options can be found at integrated development environments. You can click this link and you'll get the options that they are talking about. So you see, this page is very important to someone who is new to Python. Next, that is after having to understand what Python is, after getting Python interpreter downloaded on your computer, then the next step is learning Python. Next, you should read a tutorial or try some simple experiments with your new Python interpreter. Now, this one is tailor-made for someone who is a beginner and even to those who have programming experience. And that's why this presentation is not only for beginners, but even for those who have previous programming experience that might be in other languages or in this very language and they need to look something up. So if you have never programmed before, you can see the beginner's guide for non-programmers for a list of suitable tutorials. So if you need tutorials to learn Python, already we can see that this beginner's guide, and that's why it's very important, it gives us a headway into some of the tutorials that will help us, the suitable tutorials that will help us to learn Python. You have said that this is not the only place that you can get tutorials, but one of the most, capital M-O-S-T, one of the most important platforms whereby you can get tutorials or you can learn Python as you combine with other tutorials, other YouTube channels, other books, other articles, and other platforms. Now, if you have previous programming experience, then you can consult Beginner's Guide for Programmers. This one was for non-programmers. Then this one is for programmers, which lists more advanced tutorials. So already we can see that from this Beginner's Guide, it can lead us from a novice level to the more advanced levels. And also, if English isn't your first language, you might be more comfortable with a tutorial that's been translated into your language. And there you can consult this link. Now, we see here that most tutorials assume that you know how to run a program on your computer. If you are using Windows and need help in this, then you can see this. And if you are using any other OS, then there are tons of tutorials outside this platform and even in articles which can help you. As long as we have YouTube today and Google, you can always check up or look up to anything that you want. Now, some sites offer in-browser coding for those who want to learn Python. There are some sites that have got in-browser coding for those who want to learn Python, and already they have been listed here. So already here you can see some of the sites from where you can learn Python, and that's why this place is very this platform that we are reading is very important. Now, also you can print a cheat sheet for most important Python features and post it to your office wall until you know the basics well. It's always important to read and read again so that we can have an understanding of the basics. And just to remind you that if you have an understanding of the basics, or it is always important to have a solid understanding of the fundamentals, just like when you build a house. If the foundation is not strong, then the whole building might crumble up, however high you have built it. That's why it's always important to have a solid understanding of the basics, and that's why we have begun at a very basic level, the beginner's guide to Python. Now, once you have read a tutorial, you can browse through Python's online documentation, a very important link. It includes a tutorial that might come in handy, a library reference, and when you go and look at this library reference, it says that this one is for keeping under the pillow. You will always need to reference and reference and reference, even after you have come an established or an advanced or a senior data scientist. You'll always need to reference some of these things, and there's a library reference here that lists all the modules that come standard with Python, and language reference for complete explanation of Python syntax, that is. Now, when you are ready to write your first program, you will need a text editor, and you have mentioned that, or an IDE. And we'll also do another video to differentiate between an editor and an IDE and explain what they are. Now, if you need help with any of this, you can read the Beginner's Guide Help for mailing list and the news groups. Now, most Python books will include an introduction for language. See introductory books. So you see, this beginner's guide also guides us to introductory books for suggested titles, and you can consult beginner's guide example for small programs. So there's a lot that we cannot finish here. Or if you prefer to learn Python through listening to a lecture, you can attend a training course or even hire a trainer to come to your company. You can consult Python events page to see if any training courses are scheduled in your area, and the Python training page for a list of trainers. And that's why we have said that when you search Python, we talked of the importance of what the search engine brings up. The events we have seen here, it refers to the events, that you can always consult Python events page to see if any training courses are scheduled in your area, and the Python training page for a list of trainers. That's why we should never ignore this beginner's guide to Python. Now here, when you search Python and the search engine brings this up, we have already seen this like a little learning path. We have seen what the beginner's guide is about. We have gone through it. Then there is when you search here, there is the documentation, and this is an area that will also come into, like here we have got an explanation, a documentation of what's new to every version that they release. They'll tell you what's new, and they'll give you a documentation. There's a tutorial whereby you can start here. After you are through with the beginner's guide, you can always come to the tutorial. There is the library reference. We have already mentioned this, that this is to keep under your pillow. There is language reference. There is Python setup and usage. There is Python how-tos, in-depth documents on specific topics, very important. There is installing Python modules, distributing Python modules, extending and embedding, FAQs, another very important tab for those who are beginning with Python. But another very important tab or link in this page is this one, general index. General index, very important, general index, but we'll get into these more and more. In what the search engine brought up, there is a community also, and in the community, if you just press this link, it will bring you here, whereby one of the communities is the Welcome to the Python Discord communities. And if you are getting into programming, you should try and understand what are the communities, which are some of the communities, and which are some of the platforms that offer these communities. One of them is Discord. There is Slack. There is Reddit. There is YouTube is also a community. YouTube is also a community. There are a lot of communities, both in your local areas and globally. So we are a large community focused around Python programming language. We believe anyone can learn to code, and that's why you are here. You want to learn to code, and you can learn to code, and are very dedicated to helping novice developers take their first steps into the world of programming. So if you are a novice developer, or if you are beginning, then these communities, they help you take your first steps into the world of programming, and that's why they are very important. Like for example, if you look at this Discord community, it's a community that already has 341,699 members, and already 40,587 are online. So you see, these are very important community to get help and also to help others. So what we have looked at today is beginner's guide. This was the center of our focus. Beginner's guide to Python, whereby if you are new to programming, it's important that you begin with this beginner's guide, whereby it will guide you if you are new to Python. It will help you to get into Python with the installation and all the rest. It will guide you into learning Python. It will help you with the cheat sheets. It will help you when you need help. There are also quiz and exercises. If you need quiz and exercise, it will lead you to where to do all this and much more that you can learn from this page. So always try and have an understanding of this beginner's guide to Python. We have already just given bullet points to the things that it can guide you into as we prepare to continue into the other parts of Python. So that has been our tutorial today. You have a blessed day.